It's time for some straight talk. The big wireless companies charge a boatload for their superior network coverage. But guess what? Straight Talk uses the same cell towers but charges a lot less. Who knew? Well, now you do. And I do. So let's do something. It's time to switch to Straight Talk. Unlimited plans start as low as $35 a month on America's largest, most dependable networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. A month equals 30 days. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
Don Batard.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Are you disturbed at all that Stugatz thinks extortion and blackmail are normal business practices?
Stugatz.
It has to drive you crazy because you are smart, you are well thought out, you are reasonable, you are balanced, and I just come in with blackmail, COB.
And they love you more.
Yep, spot on.
And I'm so envious. I want their love.
You're not going to get it.
Their love's important to me. I want the love of dumb people.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio.
A member of the staff just walked into the room during the commercial break and screamed, "They got Al Franken."
What?
Al Franken is a groper. There are pictures. They got Al Franken. Now, Leanne Tweeden writes an article. I don't know who she wrote this for, but the headline is...
It was on KABC. She shared her story there.
Senator Al Franken kissed and groped me without my consent, and there's nothing funny about it. And there's a picture there, too, where she was sleeping, evidently, and Al Franken came over and took a picture where he was, I guess, putting his hands on or over her breasts, and there's a picture. Is this the same Leanne Tweeden who was married to Josh Beckett?
They dated.
Okay. They dated, and she is a pilot in the Air Force, or her family comes from the military, and she was
on a USO tour when this happened, and they were flying together, and terrible.
Yep.
Terrible.
So another one.
Can you imagine? Concoct the worst optics in a lab, and it's probably doing that on a USO tour to someone wearing fatigues.
Yeah, wearing fatigues, sleeping, and there's Al Franken. And we are just digging up everything. And this is just women and minorities getting some of the power back so that there can be
so many nervous people out there,
justice on this stuff. Yes, and you understand. And it makes me laugh in a way that's uncomfortable when the Woody Allens step to the microphones and are like meagerly defending, please be careful with the witch hunt, and then the witch hunt can go, you're guilty! because you can't even defend some of these people, even if you care about them, or even there's just no way to defend some of this behavior. So they got Al Franken. We are now going to the grid of debt. Stugatz is having a nightmare of a season. He is in debt. He's 4-6 this season. Mike, how many things does he owe? Does Stugatz still owe something from last year?
I do.
He owes something from 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Give me the list of things that I owe here. Let's make sure this is accurate.
They're in so many different Word
We got to get
documents.
Sarah involved. She's going to have to start threatening punishments.
No, it's just a poem from 2 years ago that I have to do. I will get it done.
You have to do a deaf poetry jam,
right.
A 2-minute encapsulation of the week's worth of sports stories.
Our commissioner Sarah would be raining down fire if she knew that there was still an outstanding penalty from 2 years ago.
All right, I'll get it done.
In fact, call Sarah and ask her what needs to happen here, because she needs to start threatening Stugatz.
I don't think that's necessary, Dan. I mean, I think you're taking things a bit too far. I have 5 other things to pay off. I mean, come on, man. I have to wear a straitjacket 1 week.
I just ordered that.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the entire week or a day?
That's not one of the punishments.
That's for a week or a day?
No, it's just for an entire show.
Entire show. Yeah, I have to cut Cody's big toe, the nail. I got a lot of things to do here.
You know what happened with the Deaf Poetry Jam is he was hoping we'd all forget, and we did.
Yep.
Initially, you were hoping that I'd write that for you, yes?
No, that's how he does the IOUs, Mike. He just hopes that we forget, and he just floods the market with IOUs and thinks a few will skip past the goalie. Like, it's his plan. Anyway, the Reaper is ready. The Grim Reaper owes like $12 on an assortment of fines for falling out of character. So this is how we do it every week. We go to a bucket of death. In the bucket are many helmets. Many helmets have emblems from NFL teams on them. Many have writing. Mike is the only one who knows all the rules. The first thing that's pulled out of the helmet, unless it's double death, instant double death, the first thing that's pulled out of the helmet doesn't need to count, and we go to the second pick if you pick poorly on a suicide pool. So, with all of that said, Chris Cody, go ahead and reach into the bucket.
All right. I got the Steelers.
The Steelers are a 7-point favorite at home against the Titans.
I'll keep them.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, the rare occasion where we don't know the Thursday night result before it happens.
Right, that could have been, if we'd been doing this Friday, that could have already been a win or a loss. Guillermo, go ahead and pick something from the bucket of death, please.
I got the Ravens.
The Ravens stink. The Ravens
But they got the Packers, who also stink.
No, I'm going to put these back.
They're a 2-point favorite, Bill.
The Ravens are at the Packers, a 2-point favorite. He puts it back. They're on the road.
Smart.
I think that's a smart putback.
I got the Bills.
The Bills with a new Nathan Peterman is your guy.
Well, they got the Chargers.
So no matter what, that game's going to be tight late.
Yeah.
The Bills are at the Chargers. They're a 4.5-point dog. You've got Nathan Peterman on the road. Congratulations on that. Go ahead and stick that right in your front. Nathan Peterman. Roy, pick from the helmet. It's got writing on it.
Any team by double digits.
Any team by double digits.
Oh, wow.
I got the Chiefs.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
All right, so the Chiefs are playing against
The
Giants. At the Giants.
At the Giants, but the Giants have clearly already quit, right?
Right,
Yeah,
the Giants
it's
are
over.
plus 10 in that game.
All right. So they got to win by 10. Ben McAdoo gave a big speech yesterday, Roy. I don't know. I mean,
Mike Ryan is going to now select from the bucket of death.
We'll play that Ben McAdoo sound.
You have that? Wait a minute. Let's stop everything and play it right now. What, you have Ben McAdoo's fiery speech? I haven't heard this.
I have this great Ben McAdoo sound. Ben McAdoo is never prepared for follow-ups, ever, from the New York media. And the New York media is kind of bullying him at this point. Give me a second to find this.
Okay, well, go ahead and pick from the bucket of death, and then you tell me when you've got it. Go ahead and pick from the bucket of death while you're at it here. You know that you'll have time to find it while Stugatz is rummaging.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right, so there you go. The Chiefs, 10-point favorite.
but you just need the Chiefs to win. Roy needs them to win by 10 points.
Yeah, you need them for 10
I don't
points.
like that,
I just
Roy.
need them
Yeah,
straight
sorry.
up.
I should have told you that before, but whatever.
I have a question. Is this just for NFL teams, or is it?
Yeah, just for NFL teams. Come
Who
on.
knows? Why are you
Just
asking
making
me
sure.
that
Come on,
question? You
man.
know Mike's just going to make up the rules as we go.
I have that Ben McAdoo
Go
sound
ahead and
here.
play it.
Listen, I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm built for this. You know, a calm doesn't suit me, a storm does.
Why do you say that?
The tougher it gets, the better I'm going to get. The better I expect this team to get down the stretch.
So you haven't allowed any self-doubt to creep in?
Nope.
Fired up, man.
All right, he's fired up.
It's better in a storm.
He's fired. That sentence by you was a word too long. He's fired.
Yeah, I'm not going to rummage today. I want to change my strategy, hopefully change my luck. So I'm just going to go in there. I'm going to take a helmet out, and then
You're
I'm
rummaging.
I am. Oh, no.
A black helmet with writing.
Is that the white side?
Yeah, the white side.
And which one is it, the blocks or assists?
It's white side over 2.5 blocks next game he plays in.
That is such a profoundly stupid and infuriating helmet.
How many did he have last night? And when's his next game? I need to. Dan, you got to give me a second
come
here.
on,
No,
man.
you got to give me a second here.
Come on.
Tomorrow at Wizards. Wow, they play the Wizards back-to-back games.
Home and
At
home,
the
huh?
Wizards.
Yeah, you have one block.
Usually does well against Gortat. This is a tough decision for
Over
you.
under 2.5 blocks for Hassan Whiteside. I hate how much
And remember,
these things make Stugatz
Guys,
think.
Embiid just had a big game. Hassan's going to want to make a statement.
Yeah, but I don't care. He's averaging 1.8 per game. Not happening. I throw it back in.
All right, he
Here we go.
throws it back in, and
I
here we
regret
go
that.
right back to the rummaging.
Rummaging.
Right goes
Another
Rummaging.
the strategy that has brought him 6 losses this season, he superstitiously clings to.
I haven't paid a single one. Here we go. I got a helmet.
He's got
Oh, yeah!
golden helmet of life! Golden helmet of glorious life!
The golden helmet of life.
3 straight
The
bye
golden
weeks!
helmet of life.
Swap helmet, here I come! Swap
No,
helmet!
don't you dare.
Swap helmet!
Swap with Cody. Please don't swap.
Chargers? Oh, God, no.
Oh, you're going to be in that game. You're going to be in that game late. You got Nathan Peterman.
You got Peterman on his first start in the NFL on the road.
All right, I'm going to keep the Chargers.
Wow,
all right, but I'm going to see what my next pick would have been because if I want to see if I would have gotten the swap helmet and could have gotten the golden helmet of life.
I'm going to spend my 3 weeks paying off the other debts that I owe.
Oh, Globetrotters. That would have been a good one to have. Yeah, but Globetrotters, not as much of a lock as Phillip Rivers is going to be down. Length of the field to go late on Sunday. No timeouts, 81 yards to go in 13 seconds.
Money, 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 money.
Congratulations, Stugotz. That bucket has been evil to you. Evil.
But now you're safe for 3 weeks.
Yes, but 3 weeks, again, I'll be spending
all of which, yes, you will be paying off every debt you have as 3 weeks, but Chris, Sarah's going to rain down judgment and make you do 2 penalties a week. They're going to be the 3 worst weeks of your life.
Dan Le Batard.
Yo. Chicken time.
Stugotz.
Smarter job.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Get in touch with the show anytime to the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed at Le Batard Show at Stugotz790. Dan, it is time for Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contract.
If you're watching on television, we leave ESPNU after this segment and we head over to ESPN News. Tyrod Taylor has suggested that race may have played a factor in the decision to bench him. Before we get to that, or maybe we'll get to it right now. We'll get to that in a second. I just want to make an appraisal of everything that was just happening. What were we talking about during the break here? What is it that we were discussing? Do you remember?
We're talking about Al Franken.
Yeah.
And his apology that he just released.
Yes.
Was it an apology?
I wanted an Al Franken update. But what we were talking about is who's next. Like, who needs to get out in front of this right now?
Travolta.
If you go all in with Travolta, is there anyone else that I can go all in with? Like we're going to start needing apologies here before this stuff arrives.
It's already starting to bubble up on Travolta as far as the accusation.
Should he just go on Twitter? I did it, all of it. Just whatever's coming next, I did it. And I'm sorry.
I'm sorry benefits those, like, look, we don't need to mention over the air, but it's pretty well known. Like, Kevin Spacey didn't catch people by surprise, right? Louis C.K. didn't really catch people by surprise, right? Mm-hmm. So there are not really well-kept secrets out there, and I truly believe it benefits you to get out in front of these things.
And the Travolta one. Now, we don't. I don't know that that's fair to do to Travolta because some of the stuff that Travolta for a long time, it's been National Enquirer stories and the tabloids doing stories on if he's gay and masseuses. And those have been reports that I don't think have been reported by anyone credible, and it's unseemly to out anybody in that manner anyway. But when you've gone from gay, celebrity gossip, or is he gay, to is he a predator, those are two very different things. And I don't know what's headed Travolta's way, but if those massages were aggressive, as some of the accusations we've read in these tabloids are, something might be headed Travolta's way. I'm trying to figure out. Sizemore was the least surprising thing I've ever heard. Tom Sizemore.
Him being a creep. Him being that much of a creep was, anytime you read something like that, it's jarring.
Sizemore, though, like he's just been, Tom Sizemore is debaucherous and lost. Like that guy's been wandering around in Gary Busey territory for a while. Like if I told you right now that Gary Busey did something crazy, you're like, yeah, of course he did. Because it's Gary Busey.
That is Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE
It was
networks.
not Straight Talk. It was John Travolta talk.
Well, what do you think would happen if Travolta actually came out and said, listen, I don't know where it's coming from.
Stop that
I don't know who's
sentence there. Just stop. The sentence is a few words too long. If he came out? Go ahead. Continue.
If he came out and said, okay, hey, listen, I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know who it's coming from. I just know it's coming, and everything that anyone says is true, and I apologize. What do you think the reaction would be to that?
That's not good enough. That if you're going to start being accused of crimes, that's not going to buy you very much.
Well, which way? Like, how do you have to do it then for it to buy you something, some sort of sympathy?
The thing
you have to cry a little bit.
The thing. Let's not talk about the strategic scheming of how you make your way out of these situations. I'm more interested in sort of discussing what's going to happen to these people. What has Al Franken actually said? Is Louis C.K.'s career over? And furthermore, are we going to go down the Cosby route on some of these things? Where some of these things, like, I feel like Kevin Spacey's looking at a trial. I think Kevin Spacey's headed to a place where we're going to have criminal charges.
Franken's statement did end in an apology, but it started with, I didn't remember the skit rehearsal going exactly that way, because remember, it's a USO tour and they're entertaining for troops. So on the front end, there was a bit of an explanation, maybe even an excuse.
Man, I do feel like in this climate, though, the context gets buried. If someone accuses you of it, it's an L. I don't even know, unless you have like a Kanye West, Taylor Swift recording that you can pull out to you. I don't know what you do. Like, once you get hit with the accusation, that feels like we're past innocent till guilty, proven innocent until whatever. Innocent until proven guilty. You know what I mean? Like,
you got it. Nailed it.
Yeah,
thank you.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Thank you. But you understand what I'm saying, right? Like, haven't we reached a point? Have we not gotten to a point now? If there is someone willing to put their name on, he groped me, he touched me, he did something inappropriate, that person's telling the truth.
Yes. Yep. That person, yes, even if they're not telling the truth, yes, that person is telling the truth.
Yeah.
That's frightening.
I mean, it is frightening, but then, keep your behavior in order. Yes, it's frightening, but and it would be terrible to be on the wrong end of that. Yeah. And it would be terrible to have context not matter when you start explaining yourself.
You do have if you have multiple accusers, you're taking the automatic L on that, at least in terms of public perception, even if there's just one. I know the Electronic Act, Crystal Castles, it's just one accuser right now, and the victim released all that stuff, and the person who was being accused of these things countersued.
But, as I was saying, on First Take, they're discussing that Tyrod Taylor is suggesting that race may have played a role in why it is that he was benched, and Nathan Peterman is starting. Next.
Don Le Batard.
We're very morally upstanding, right? We will never pay for an interview. Never. TMZ, you paid for it? Can I have some?
Harvey, talks to her later.
Stugats.
Watch this. This will be fun. You guys let me know, all right, when it is that we freeloaded off of TMZ here as a network.
Any minute.
You guys let me know, because as soon as TMZ buys it, we're coming in right behind them. First follower. Never mind about our moral, upstanding, journalistic conviction. We'll be right there. We're hitting, our entire company's hitting refresh on TMZ. You guys got her yet?
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Bill Burr going to join us in a half hour, noon Eastern, on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. UCLA freshman LiAngelo Ball, Cody Riley, and Jalen Hill have been suspended from the basketball team indefinitely after returning from a trip to China, where they were held for shoplifting. The Cy Young Awards have been announced. Indians pitcher Corey Kluber won for the American League, and the Nationals, Max Scherzer, won in the National League. And finally, Leonardo da Vinci's masterpiece, Salvator Mundi, achieves $450,312,500, a world auction record for any work of art sold at auction. It's absurd. For all the latest headlines and information, tune to the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Bill Burr is going to join us at noon Eastern.
You don't find that to be absurd? $450 million you're going to spend on a piece of art? Please.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. What's more absurd, spending $450 million on art, or Stugatz fancying himself an art critic who can discern these things?
Well, that's the problem. The art critic is the problem. Discern these things. It's a piece of art. I mean, I hate the guy who's sitting there at the museum and he's looking at a piece of art and he's seeing something that you can't see. Who cares? I mean, please. Oh, no, it's worth $450 million. Do something better with your $450 million and spend it on a piece of art that only you find to be fascinating. I mean, Pollock is an absolute joke.
Wow, that was loud.
And who is this Salvador Mundi? Who is he? Why is a picture of him worth $450 million? Is that what it is, a picture? It is. It's a Kodak?
A painting. It's probably not a...
This is what happens, Dan. I should have gotten into art. Because what happens is, okay, you build a name for yourself. You come out with something good and you get a bunch of people to rave about it. And then you know what you do? You just put a piece of canvas up there, you throw a bunch of paint on it, and then voila, $450 million. What a joke. It's a scam. Art is a scam. Anyway.
Cameron, put it on the poll. Is art a scam? I would think that you would appreciate a good scam. I think that what's really happening here is you're lashing out at someone, namely art.
Yeah.
Arriving at a scam before you did.
And Pollock. Your brother's an artist. I apologize, because Lebo's actually a very good artist. He doesn't just throw paint against the canvas, but everyone else does.
I was not offended by anything that you said there.
I mean, Monet, Manet, whatever. Enough already. $450 million. You would think that person has something better to do with his $450 million, or hers.
Well, just for the record, do you realize these are investments? You realize none of these people are just throwing away $450 million to have something in their home.
I mean, let's be real. Like, Pollock just stole money. Pollock.
All right. Is Jackson Pollock a thief? Go ahead and put it on the poll, I guess.
Wait till you see how that one comes back.
So Bill Burr is going to join us in a half hour, and Diplo is going to join us in an hour, and Method Man has gotten on a flight. He is high, so we will get back to Method Man tomorrow and find him and do our celebrity predictions with him.
The last 30 seconds of this show have been so weird. The guest reset discussion, it's just so our show.
Which part?
Bill Burr is joining us. Method Man is high. He won't be joining us today. Diplo
I meant he's
joining
flying.
us.
That's what I meant.
I know what you meant.
He's on a plane.
Just a weird guest list, even for our show.
Yeah. Diplo should be interesting at 12:30. But let's get back into this Tyrod Taylor story, Stugotz, because I know you guys are tired of was race a factor. But when a moving quarterback is not having a system put in place for a moving quarterback, and then it's a bunch of white people putting together a system for the white quarterback. Can it be race playing a factor within that without it being racism playing a factor within that? And I don't know how you even separate those two things, because usually we just end up arguing when anyone mentions any of it. But I'm just curious. If not in a situation where a quarterback who is who doesn't throw interceptions, who basically looks like Alex Smith and plays like Alex Smith, but also throws the ball deep, when that system around him is not made for him the way it is for Alex Smith in Kansas City, right. And when they go with a more prototypical, favoring the statuesque white quarterback system with Nathan Peterman as their guy, who he's pretty lead-footed, right? Peterman is a guy who's got a big arm but looks more like the prototype. Sure. Is it unfair for Tyrod Taylor to look at that, think to himself while looking in the mirror, I am Alex Smith with a deep ball, and say to himself, really, are we going another route here with a quarterback? Because we're still not ready in 2017 for the pocket passer. I understand how he arrives at that opinion.
So do I. I'm not going to fall. If Tyrod Taylor is first off, he's the closest to it, right? He's actually in it. He's in the middle of it. So if that's the way he's experiencing it, then I'm certainly not going to strip him of those feelings and tell him that he's wrong. Like, if he's certainly entitled to feel.
Plenty of people will say he's flatly wrong. That they will just go on the outskirts of this conversation and say, "Oh, please, no race card here. Don't want to hear about it. Be better, do better, be better than Tyrod Taylor."
But I think so the Bills were 5-2 just a couple of weeks ago. They win the last two games. They're 7-2, and Tyrod Taylor's still the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, and probably is the quarterback next year for the Buffalo Bills. I think this strictly got down to the people making the decisions, and they don't think they've given him a couple chances. Hey, we're never going to win a championship with this guy. We're just not. Maybe it's not him. Maybe it's the supporting cast, but this team is never going to win a championship. We owe him a lot of money in the offseason. We don't want to pay this guy because we're not going to win a championship with this guy. And that's a business decision.
All a fair assessment. And Andy Reid might end up making the same assessment on Alex Smith because of Patrick Mahomes.
This is sort of the decision that you've been clamoring for a team to make, though. It is pretty courageous.
Oh, wait a minute. You guys got to understand something. I'm not objecting to this decision. I'm really not. In fact, yesterday, and I will say this again, maybe the Bills know something I don't know, and Peterman will be amazing. I can't make an assessment on Peterman. Like, they have so much more information on this, but they also have 17 years not making the playoffs, and they also have 17 years of total mismanagement in that front office. And I'm looking at a quarterback that I believe to be decent, and I'm looking at him in a system that doesn't seem decent with players that don't seem decent. And I'm looking also at this blueprint. The Bills came into the season telling you, you know what? No Sammy Watkins, we're starting over. And then in the middle of it, they're like, no, playoff team, we're going to go after Kelvin Benjamin. And then 2 games later, they're like, never mind, we're going to change quarterbacks. And it just does, none of it seems like vision.
What's weird to me is McDermott, even though he's a defensive guy, he came from the Donovan McNabb Eagles and the Cam Newton Panthers, so he knows how valuable having a mobile quarterback can be and how that can open your offense up. But Rick Dennison came from the Broncos, and there's a lot of Brock Osweiler, Peyton Manning in that system.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying. That is one of the, because what we're getting by text, and it's inevitable, because people shut off their ears as soon as they hear Tyrod Taylor says race. I don't want to hear any more after that. So this guy writes in, OMG, Dan, they had another black quarterback before Taylor. That's a guy who's just sort of like, wait, you're claiming racism. You're claiming E.J. Manuel. And that's not what we're claiming. What I am saying is, are you willing to consider the possibility that if white people using white prototype things are making all the decisions on scheme, and their quarterback is a quarterback who not only is a black quarterback, but is a black quarterback who plays what has been, over stereotypical time, the black way. And your system is made for Nathan Peterman instead of what Andy Reid is doing in Kansas City, which is building a system that all of a sudden is read option for Alex Smith based on the talent that he has.
Right.
Are you allowed to believe, if you're Tyrod Taylor, hey, man, like, this is white guys trying to take a black skill set and not knowing what to do with a black skill set because they're doing it with a white quarterback. They're doing it with their Brock Osweiler prototype.
Well, of course, you're allowed to believe that if you're him, and people are allowed to disagree with his beliefs. Yeah. I mean, they are. They're going to. It is not like, I would ask people this, because over the last 3 seasons, his quarterback rating 2 years ago was 99.4. Last year it was 90. This year it's 91.4. Over those 3 years, he has 47 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. Those guys don't get benched. They don't get benched when you put up those kind of stats.
It's important to note, too, that Tyrod may be emboldened by that Mina Kimes article that came out that sort of alluded, and not necessarily alluded to, sort of tackled this whole dynamic directly when it came to him.
I just wish, I really do wish that this is something that we could discuss, in a way that you guys wouldn't fight me on, because I just think it's legitimately interesting. Like, I don't want to fight about, oh, the Bills racist. I'm not interested in that conversation. I'm not accusing them of it. I'm just simply saying to you, does Tyrod Taylor have the same sort of disadvantages coming into this particular club as the white guy does when he's trying to make his way into the NBA? Like, and where are the interesting things there when don't make it nefarious. Don't make it, this is evil clans people. This is just make it white sensibilities governing a black thing, and seeing if they manage it right.
It's not without precedent. We gave Chip Kelly credit when he ran a system with cement-footed Nick Foles.
It's something that's stimulating to me, and I just wish it's something that we could talk about without fighting about it, because I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just asking questions around this and saying, hey, do you guys find this interesting or not? Because Tyrod Taylor's a quarterback 15 teams in the league would want, and they can't figure out a way to make it work with the Bills, and the Bills aren't looking in the mirror because the Bills have been bad for a really long time, while Tyrod Taylor has been better than what the Bills have been for 17 years. He's been better at what he does than they have been for 17 years at what they do.
Dan Le Batard.
There are some legitimately meaty race stories out there.
Stugats.
Great.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
Bill Burr is going to join us in 15 minutes. He's funny, the comedian Bill Burr. Diplo is going to join us 12:30, one of the biggest DJs in all the world. A texter writes in, I'm a Tyrod Taylor fan and believe he should be starting, but it's so disingenuous for Dan to say I'm not saying anything. I'm just asking a question regarding race. When you ask a question on a national radio show, you are saying something. Guys, I don't know if the Bills know something I don't. Maybe they know that Peterman is better than Tyrod Taylor. I don't know. I'm usually willing to defer to all coaches on that. They know more than I do. They're watching every day in practice. I can't possibly make an accurate assessment on whether they should be changing their quarterback or not. And maybe on Sunday, Peterman goes out there and it's not about the Bills allowing 81 points the last 2 weeks. Maybe Peterman settles everything down and they don't look like a disaster.
But if you're Tyrod, you're sitting there, because I think it's a fair question for you to ask, right? I really do.
Well, he's asking
and
it.
He's the one asking it. It's not Dan. Tyrod Taylor is the one who brought it up. But you're sitting there going, wow, my defense gave up 81 points the last 2 games, and I'm the one getting benched? Because they got blown out by the Jets a couple of weeks ago on a Thursday night. It wasn't Tyrod Taylor's fault. I'm a Jet fan. I watched that game. Tyrod Taylor was fine. The defense was lousy. Just lousy.
Yeah, McDermott being a defensive guy, this seems like a bit of a deflection. We've had this discussion in a much better form when it was Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick back in the day. And back then, Dan was supporting the Niners coaching staff and withholding judgment on the move.
I wonder, when it comes to Andy Reid, how stability... This, to me, the larger conversation in sports is an interesting one, and it's this. Andy Reid is really comfortable in who he is as a coach. So the Chiefs, where he's gone, those places have been stable. Maybe they have not won championships, but those places, because he is very good at putting in his talent in the best position to win, those places has been stable. So Alex Smith's job has been stable and supported for a long time. Mm-hmm. And when you make some of these investments in young people, Stugatz, I find the treasures in sports are the Pelicans are ruining Anthony Davis. They've got something there that is indisputably that something you can win with.
Sure.
And everything around him there has been so unstable, changing in management styles, that people get undermined, like Tyrod Taylor, who could have been something else in a different system because you have so much turnover. It's one of the great things the Patriots have is everyone knows you go there and the stability is so strong and fearless that they can make something with anybody. And I'm trying to think of places in sports where you're handed this treasure. Like Lonzo Ball, the Lakers could ruin him if they do not figure out how to support him correctly. It'll be interesting to watch what happens with Fultz in Philadelphia.
Right.
Because he's short-circuiting a little bit with injury and mental stuff. And can they be stable around him? Because the Sixers, weird as it's been, have been very stable in terms of what their management is. You know what I mean?
They're very consistent.
They had Hanky, and now they went in a different direction, but there hasn't been a great deal of instability there.
There hasn't, no.
Brown's been there the entire time.
The coach has been the same. I'm be wondering whether they'll allow him. He's been so graceful losing. I'm wondering if they'll allow him to do the winning.
You're looking for more places like that? Like San Antonio is a shining example,
No, but what I'm looking for is places where you know a guy, like Anthony Davis. What I'm looking for across sports is where Alvin Gentry is given a treasure. Like, that's the reason Alvin Gentry had the top assistant job in the game at Golden State. He had tried his hand at coaching. He had learned over time that you need players. He went to New Orleans because he realized what a treasure he had been given in the development of Anthony Davis. Thibodeau has been given that in Minnesota.
Yep.
The development of Karl Anthony Towns. You give him total power, you give him total stability, and you let him run it. And what I'm saying is, when I met with on the Bills what I believe to be mismanagement on the level of the Browns over the last 17 years. The Browns have made the playoffs more recently than the Bills. In fact, Mike, would you do me the favor of checking the record of the Browns and the Bills over the last 17 years? Just the overall record, because I'd be curious. The Browns are viewed as the national laughingstock in that sport. I'd be curious how far removed the Bills are from being the Browns. And what I'm telling you is, whether you're Sammy Watkins or any of the other Bills that have flourished elsewhere, when they go to places that feel more stable, it's fair to question whether Bills management and that instability is making it impossible to win there. because it's 17 years in a league that legislates equality where they have not been able to get to the playoffs. Is it the longest run in the sport? It is, right? It must be.
It is, in terms of the playoffs. Yeah, it is. Now, the Bills weren't anywhere near as bad as the Browns just over the last 10 years because they had such a great streak of 7-9 and 8-8. They were at least competitive, where the Browns were not. The worst team in that 10-year span was actually the Rams. They were somehow worse than the Browns.
Is it close over the last 17 years?
Over the last 17 years, I got to look up at the last 17 years. All I have is the last 10.
Yeah, because the Bills do have a lot of 6 and 8 or 6 and 10s and 7 and 9s in there.
I think what people are objecting to, Dan, is it could strictly just be a business decision. Like they could be sitting there going, no race, nothing. Just, hey, we know this quarterback's good. He's not going to win here. We're not going to win with him. We're going to try out this other guy, and we're going to let Tyrod Taylor go play wherever he wants next season.
That's fair, but if you have any vision, stability, or leadership, you need to know that 2 games ago. You need to know that when you can trade him for value. Like
that's hard at 5-2, man. I agree with you. It's hard at 5-2, Dan.
Look, man, this is what I demand from my management team, to know if their 5-2 is real. Like, come on, man. Like, why pay these people to make all of these big decisions, millions of dollars? Offensive line coaches are paying $2 and $3 million. They're snorting coke off a desk.
But you're asking McDermott to say his 5-2 is not a real 5-2, and that is self-awareness. That in that job field,
come on, man, that's leadership. Like, have some vision. Do you know that you're a real 5-2 or you're fake 5-2? Like, why am I hiring you if you don't know more than I do? I could look at the standings and tell you whether I could look at point differential and tell you whether you're a real 5-2 or not. Come on, man. We pay these people.
You can always count on Bud Light, just like you can always count on Tailgate Terry. Without Tailgate Terry, you wouldn't have cold Bud Lights and 7-layer dip at every pregame. That's 56 layers per season. Just the right amount if you ask Terry. Tailgate Terry is famous among friends. He deserves a Bud Light. Enjoy responsibly. Bud Light Beer, AB St. Louis, Missouri.